The first thing people noticed about the resort wasn't the luxury, it was the silence. Not the peaceful kind that travelers pay for. Not the gentle hush of waves brushing against sand. This silence felt staged, like something holding its breath. The brochures called it Azure Palms Retreat, a private beachside escape tucked away on the quieter edge of Miami, Florida, all-inclusive. Adults only, limited bookings, an experience beyond the ordinary. For most, that was enough. For Daniel Reyes, it was exactly the kind of place he'd been sent to investigate. Daniel wasn't a journalist anymore, not officially. His press badge had expired 2 years ago, after a story that got too close to the wrong people. But habits didn't disappear just because titles did. And when 3 separate missing persons cases quietly intersected at the same luxury resort, he couldn't ignore it. Especially when one of those people was his younger sister, Lucia. She had come here for a weekend getaway. She never came back. The police had brushed it off. Adults disappear all the time, especially in tourist-heavy cities. Maybe she left with someone. Maybe she skipped town. Maybe she didn't want to be found. Daniel knew better. Lucia had texted him the night she arrived. "This place is weird." Then, a second message, 30 minutes later. "I think I made a mistake coming here." That was the last thing she ever said. Daniel arrived at Azure Palms just before sunset, when the sky burned orange and gold over the Atlantic. The resort looked exactly like the photos: pristine white buildings, palm trees swaying lazily, infinity pools merging seamlessly with the horizon. Beautiful, too beautiful. A uniformed attendant greeted him before he even stepped fully out of the taxi. "Welcome to Azure Palms, Mr. Reyes," the man said with a practiced smile. Daniel froze for half a second. "I don't remember giving my name." The attendant's smile didn't falter. "We like to be prepared." That was the first red flag. The second came when Daniel glanced around the lobby. There were guests, dozens of them. Couples lounging on white sofas, sipping cocktails, laughing softly. Everything looked normal, except no one was using their phones. Not a single screen lit up the room. No scrolling, no texting, no photos. Just people, being present. It should have felt refreshing. Instead, it felt wrong. "Your stay is for 3 nights," the attendant continued, handing him a sleek black keycard. "Dinner is served at 8. We strongly encourage all guests to attend." "Encourage?" Daniel asked. The man's smile widened just slightly. "It's part of the experience." Daniel's room overlooked the ocean. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist decor, a bottle of champagne chilling in a silver bucket. Everything screamed luxury. But Daniel wasn't here for comfort. The moment the door shut behind him, he got to work. He checked the room, first under the bed, inside the closet, behind the bathroom mirror. Old instincts. Paranoia, maybe. Or survival. Nothing obvious. Then he pulled out his phone. No signal. Not even a flicker. He tried the Wi-Fi. Connected. No internet. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Of course," he muttered. Cut off from the outside world. Another red flag. He opened his bag and took out a small digital recorder, placing it on the bedside table. "Day 1, he said quietly. "Azure Palms Resort. No external communication. Staff seems overly informed. Guests behaving unusually calm." He hesitated, then added, "Lucia was here." A knock at the door interrupted him, sharp, precise, almost timed. Daniel slipped the recorder into his pocket before opening the door. A woman stood outside, dressed in the same crisp uniform as the attendant downstairs. But unlike him, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Dinner begins in 20 minutes, she said. "I'll be there." She didn't leave. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You're new, obviously." Another pause. Then she leaned closer, just enough that her voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't skip dinner." A chill ran down Daniel's spine. Wasn't planning to. She held his gaze for a moment longer, then straightened and walked away. The dining hall was massive. Open air, facing the ocean, lit by soft golden lights. Long tables stretched across the space, filled with guests already seated. And again, that silence. People were talking, sure, laughing, clinking glasses, but it all felt muted, like a performance. Daniel took a seat near the back, scanning the room. That's when he noticed it. Every table had an empty chair, one seat left open, no matter how many guests were seated. Reserved, waiting for someone, he muttered under his breath. Not someone, a voice beside him said. Daniel turned. A man in his late 40s sat next to him, swirling a glass of red wine. His eyes were tired, too aware. For something. Daniel didn't respond immediately. First night? The man asked. Yeah. The man nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something. Name's Victor, he said, and if you're smart, you'll leave before tomorrow night. Daniel leaned back slightly. Why? Victor took a sip of wine. Because tonight is just dinner. He gestured subtly toward the empty chairs. Tomorrow is the feast. The food arrived in waves, exquisite dishes, perfectly plated. Seafood, steak, exotic fruits Daniel couldn't even name. But something was off. The smell. It was rich, savory. But beneath it, something metallic. Daniel picked up his fork, hesitating. Go on, Victor said quietly. Eat. You're not. Victor smiled faintly. I made that mistake my first night. Daniel set the fork down. Yeah, I'm gonna pass. Victor's smile widened just a little. Good. Across the room, a bell rang. Clear, sharp. Every conversation stopped instantly. At the far end of the hall, a woman stepped forward. She wore white flowing, almost ceremonial. Her dark hair fell over her shoulders, and her presence commanded the entire space without effort. Welcome, she said, her voice carrying effortlessly over the crowd. No microphones, Daniel whispered. Victor didn't look at him. That's her, he said. Who? Victor's jaw tightened. The one who decides who stays and who feeds. Daniel's pulse quickened. The woman smiled warmly at the guests. Tonight we celebrate your arrival, she continued, your escape from the noise of the outside world. Here, you are free. A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Tomorrow, she said, her tone shifting just slightly, we honor something far older. Something that has sustained this place long before any of you arrived. Daniel felt it then. That subtle shift, like the entire room had just leaned forward. Hungry, the woman's gaze swept across the tables, and for a brief, terrifying second, it stopped on him. She smiled, not warmly this time, knowingly. Daniel's stomach dropped. Victor whispered, barely audible, "You shouldn't have come here." Later that night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The ocean roared outside louder than before. Or maybe he was just listening differently now. He replayed everything in his head, the empty chairs, the strange food, the woman in white, the way she looked at him, like she already knew him, like she'd been expecting him. At 2:13 a.m., he heard it, a sound, faint, distant, a scream. Daniel sat up instantly. Another scream followed, cut short. He grabbed his recorder and slipped out of the room. The hallway was empty. But the sound, it was coming from outside, from the beach. Daniel moved quickly, keeping to the shadows. The resort looked different at night, darker. The lights dimmed just enough to create pockets of blackness between the pathways. He reached the edge of the sand and froze. There were people on the beach, a lot of them. Guests, staff, all gathered in a wide circle around something Daniel couldn't quite see. A fire burned at the center, its flames twisting unnaturally high, and the smell, that metallic scent again, stronger now, overpowering. Daniel moved closer, heart pounding. He crouched behind a low stone wall, just close enough to see, and what he saw made his blood run cold. At the center of the circle, bound and struggling, was a man, alive, screaming, and surrounding him. Smiling, waiting, hungry, the woman in white stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. She raised a hand. The man's screams turned to desperate sobs. Please, please, I'll pay, out. She placed a finger gently against his lips. Shh. Her smile was soft, almost tender. It's already paid for. Daniel felt his breath catch in his throat. Victor's words echoed in his mind. Tomorrow is the feast. The woman looked up at the full moon hanging heavy in the sky. Then, slowly, she lowered her hand, and the crowd moved, all at once, like a single organism. Daniel couldn't look away, couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because what he was seeing, what they were doing, it wasn't just murder, it was ritual, it was hunger, and it was only the beginning. Behind him, a voice whispered, "You weren't supposed to see this yet." Daniel turned sharply. The woman in white stood just a few feet away, smiling. Up close, her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too deep. What is this place? Daniel managed to choke out. Her smile widened. This? She glanced back at the feeding crowd. This is survival. She stepped closer, and tomorrow night her voice dropped to a whisper. You're invited to participate. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. I'm not one of you. Her eyes gleamed. Not yet. A pause. Then, softly, but you will be. Far out on the beach, the screams finally stopped, and the silence returned, heavier than ever. The silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt satisfied. Daniel stood frozen, the sound of the ocean now drowned beneath something far worse, the wet, tearing echoes from the beach, the low hum of voices, and the unmistakable rhythm of something primal being fulfilled. The woman in white watched him carefully, not like prey, like an investment. You look like you're trying to decide if this is real, she said softly. Daniel forced himself to speak. People don't just do this. Not like this. Not together. Her smile didn't waver. They do, she replied. They just hide it better. Behind her, the crowd began to disperse slowly, calmly, like guests leaving a show. Some wiped their mouths with napkins. Others laughed quietly, linking arms as they walked back toward the resort. No panic, no guilt, just contentment. Daniel swallowed hard. They're tourists. They were, she corrected. A pause. Now they're part of something greater. Daniel's fists clenched. You're killing people. Her head tilted slightly, almost curious. And what do you think your world does, Daniel? His name hit him like a slap. You don't know me. I know everything about you, she said gently. Your work, your obsession, your sister. Daniel stepped back. What did you do to Lucia? For the first time, the woman's expression shifted, something almost like disappointment. She was special, she said. Curious, strong-willed. She saw more than most. Daniel's chest tightened. Where is she? The woman studied him for a long moment. Then she turned, gesturing toward the dark shoreline. Come, she said. Every instinct screamed at him not to follow. But Lucia's face, her last message, pushed him forward. The sand was cold beneath his feet as he followed her further down the beach, away from the main resort lights. The moon hung impossibly bright above them, casting long, distorted shadows. The sounds of the feast had faded, but the smell lingered, stronger here, thicker. They reached a set of jagged rocks at the far edge of the property. Half hidden behind them was something Daniel hadn't noticed before. A door. Not modern, not polished. Old, carved into the stone itself. Symbols etched into its surface, twisting, unnatural shapes that seemed to shift if he stared too long. What is this? Daniel asked. Where it began, she replied. She placed her hand against the door. It opened with a low, grinding sound. Warm air spilled out, and with it, that smell. Rotting, sweet, mespalic. Daniel gagged, covering his nose. She stepped inside. After a moment's hesitation, he followed. The tunnel sloped downward, lit by dim, flickering torches set into the walls. The deeper they went, the louder it became. Not screams, not anymore. Something worse. Chewing, slow, deliberate. Daniel's stomach churned. "Why show me this?" he asked. "Because you came looking for truth," she said. "And most people regret finding it too late." The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. Daniel stopped dead in his tracks. The walls were lined with bones, not scattered, arranged, stacked with care, forming pillars and arches that held up the cavern's ceiling. At the center of the chamber stood a long stone table, and around it, figures, not guests, not staff, something else. Their movements were wrong, jerky, uneven, their skin pale, stretched too tightly over their faces, their eyes hollow but aware, eating, feeding. Daniel's voice trembled. "What are they?" The woman didn't hesitate. "The first ones." A cold wave of realization hit him. "How long has this been going on?" She looked almost amused. "Long before Miami had a name." Daniel's breath came shallow. "This isn't a resort." "No," she agreed, "it's a sanctuary." A sound echoed from the far side of the chamber. A soft, dragging noise. Daniel turned, and his heart stopped. A figure emerged from the shadows, thin, unsteady, familiar. "Lucia," his voice cracked. She stepped into the torchlight, and for a moment, for one fragile, impossible moment, she looked the same. Then she lifted her head. Her eyes met his, and Daniel felt something inside him shatter. They weren't empty. They were full, too full, dark, endless. "Daniel," she whispered. He rushed forward before he could stop himself. "Oh my God, Lucia." She grabbed him, hard, too hard. Her fingers dug into his arms with unnatural strength. "You shouldn't have come here," she said. The same words, but different now. Not a warning, a fact. Daniel pulled back, searching her face. "We're leaving. Right now. I'm getting you out of here." Lucia smiled, and it was wrong. "You still think there's an out?" He shook his head. "This isn't you. They did something to you. I chose this." The words hit harder than anything else. "No," Daniel said immediately. "No, you didn't. I was dying, Daniel." His voice faltered. "What?" Her grip softened slightly. "You didn't know," she said. "Of course you didn't. I didn't want you to." The woman in white watched silently from behind. Lucia continued, her voice calm. "They found me, offered me a way to live." Daniel's mind raced. "By turning you into this? By freeing me," she corrected. She stepped closer. "You think this is horror because you're still bound by your world's rules, morality, fear, weakness." Her eyes locked onto his. "This is evolution." Daniel staggered back. "No, this is sickness." Lucia's expression didn't change. "Then why are you still here?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Because she was right. He could have run, could have left, but he hadn't. The woman in white stepped forward. "It's already begun," she said softly. Daniel looked at her, confused. "What has?" She smiled. "The hunger." A sudden pain twisted in his stomach, sharp, violent. Daniel doubled over, gasping. "What did you dinner?" Victor's voice echoed in his memory. "I made that mistake my first night." Daniel's eyes widened. "No." Lucia watched him closely. "Your body is changing," she said. "Adapting." The pain spread through his chest, his throat, his head. His senses sharpened painfully. The smell in the air intensified until it was overwhelming. And beneath it, something else. Something tempting. Daniel looked up, at the figures around the stone table, at what they were eating. His stomach growled, loud, hungry. "No," he whispered. Lucia stepped closer. "You feel it, don't you?" He shook his head, backing away. "I won't." "You will." The woman in white's voice was calm, certain, because this is what you are underneath everything else. Daniel's vision blurred. The chambers seemed to pulse. The sounds, the smells, the warmth. It was all too much. Fight it, a voice suddenly said, sharp, urgent. Daniel turned. Victor stood at the edge of the chamber, alive, barely. His face was pale, his eyes sunken but determined. Victor, I didn't eat, Victor said, breathing hard. Not after the first night. I figured it out. You can still stop it. The woman in white's smile faded slightly. A stubborn one, she murmured. Victor stepped forward. Daniel, listen to me. They need you to give in. That's how it completes. If you don't. Lucia moved faster than Daniel could process. She was in front of Victor in an instant. Her hand went through his chest. Clean. Effortless. Daniel screamed. Victor gasped, blood filling his mouth. But he smiled, even as he collapsed. Don't eat. His body hit the ground. Still. Silent. Daniel's hands shook violently. Lucia turned back to him, her expression unchanged. He was prolonging the inevitable. Daniel stared at her, at what she had become, and something inside him snapped. The hunger was still there, burning, demanding, but now, so was something else. Rage, raw, blinding. Daniel lunged, not at the bodies, not at the table, at her. Lucia didn't move, didn't defend herself. She let him grab her, let him scream, let him push her back. Fight me, he shouted. Fight it! This isn't you! For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty, just for a second. The woman in white stepped forward. That won't work, she said. She's beyond that now. Daniel ignored her. Lucia, look at me. Her breathing changed. Subtle, uneven. You're my sister, he said, his voice breaking. You don't get to disappear like this. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. Lucia's hands trembled slightly. The hunger, the control, warring. Daniel leaned closer. Come back. A long silence. Then a whisper. Daniel? Hope surged. Yes, I'm here. Her face twisted. Pain. Real pain. They're inside, she gasped. The woman in white's expression darkened. Enough. She moved forward. But Lucia screamed, a raw, inhuman sound that shook the chamber. She grabbed Daniel and shoved him toward the tunnel. R.U.N. He stumbled back. Lucia, go. The figures around the chamber began to stir, turning, watching, hungry again. The woman in white's voice cut through the chaos. Don't let him leave. Daniel didn't hesitate this time. He ran. The tunnel felt longer on the way up, the air colder, the sounds behind him louder. Feet, many feet, chasing. Daniel burst through the stone door and into the open night, gasping for air. The resort loomed ahead, peaceful, perfect, a lie. He didn't stop running, past the pools, through the empty lobby, out to the road. He didn't look back, didn't slow down, didn't think. By sunrise, Azure Palm's retreat looked exactly as it had the day before. Pristine, inviting, untouched. Guests sipped coffee by the ocean. Staff greeted new arrivals with warm smiles, and at the far edge of the beach, the tide washed gently over the sand, erasing everything. Miles away, Daniel sat on the side of the highway, shaking. Alive, breathing, human, for now. His stomach twisted again. The hunger, it wasn't gone. It was waiting, growing, growing. Daniel stared at his hands, then up at the rising sun. And finally, back toward the direction of the resort. He knew one thing with terrifying certainty. This wasn't over. Not for him, not for Lucia, and not for anyone else who would step foot into that place. Because the next full moon was only 28 days away, and this time he wouldn't be running.